she comes and she gets everyone's attention because she knows she's serving looks. And everyone stops what they're doing to go look at her. And then he walks up and she goes, "Can we have a minute?" Like, girl, go around the back. Hey! Hi, guys.
Welcome back
to episode 4, season 3 of the Girlies podcast.
Couple things have changed.
Just a few things. We have mic stands now.
Mm-hmm.
And a table.
And Callie has bangs.
I'm nervous for 2 reasons today. Because of this and because we're debuting the baying.
I was up all night thinking about it.
You have no idea. I dreamt of them.
Imagine if you put them on your own face. You know what I mean?
Even scarier.
They look amazing.
I literally cut them and then kept them hidden for like 4 days before anybody knew that I had them.
She whipped them out and I was like, how long have you been concealing those under a headband?
A while.
And I'm so glad they're here. And then they blinged out.
Yeah, I had to style them so much because the curl makes them stick straight up.
Yeah, they're
little ringlets and they stick straight up.
They were real cute. They were real cute this morning looking. I looked like I did like a science project and anyway.
They're better now.
They're better now. They're super cutie. It's a beautiful snowy day outside. And
no, it's not. Pretend it's not.
Valentine's Day is behind us. But hey, there's always room for a little romance in your life. And today, I wanted to tell the world, everybody, about one of my favorite movies of all time. And we've all seen it.
Like a dozen times.
Yeah, I'm surprised, though, that not a lot of people have seen it, actually, though.
Yeah.
You guys have. But...
yeah, my mom made me watch it.
Mm-hmm. And you've seen it several times, Bella.
Yeah,
but a few of our friends haven't.
It was a staple when I was a kid. It was a staple.
I remember the first time I watched it, I was in high school. And I was just looking up movies like Cinderella or like another Cinderella story because there's like 6 renditions of them. And I found it and I watched it. And I woke up early the next day before school to watch it one more time because it's incredible. So today I wanted to just, I don't know, if you guys have seen the movie, you guys know what I'm talking about. You can skip over the episode. I'm probably going to go over a little bit. I'm probably going to do a little bit of a plot summary, like go through the entire movie. So spoiler alert. But also, it's also great talking about a film where it's not really, you cannot spoil it. It's
Cinderella.
You can know everything about it, and it's still amazing and fun to watch.
Yes. So Ever After is from 1998. It stars Drew Barrymore. It stars Angelica Houston. And it's essentially just an adaptation of Cinderella. It's one of the first. There's been several, but the 2000s, they really pumped them out. But so I think it's really cool too that it's such a great story because it's difficult to do something like that that's been overdone again and again and again and keep it interesting and keep it engaging and exciting. So I want to go a little bit over some of the history of Cinderella because it's an old tale and the story transcends time a little bit. And Ever After takes it and takes some of the outdated stuff and makes it better, like the acting, the characters, some of the writing decisions, the sets, location, technicality.
And for being from the 90s, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm. And it also shows us that princesses can be cool.
Yeah.
Which I think is an important thing to learn as a woman, because I kind of fought that for a long time, like fought against my femininity. Princesses aren't cool, but they really are. And this princess is the coolest one ever. And I'm going to tell you guys about it. Okay. So, Cinderella, the precursors of that story date back to the 1st century. Like, like back before the Common Era. So at least minimum 2,025 years ago. Way, way long ago. And it's in ancient Greece. They told stories of a Greek slave that attracted the attention of the king of Egypt with a shapely sandal, if you will. And the story was called Rhodopis. And you knew this, Callie, which I thought was impressive.
Yeah, in the 8th grade, we took a history course called Ancient Civilizations. And my teacher made us read like the original story. So I've read the original Cinderella story, like a translation of it, obviously, but I have read it.
That's incredible. And then versions of this were traced all around, like, to Chinese storytellers in 600 CE, and then all around Eastern Asia. Then it landed in Europe during the Renaissance era. And in 1635, Italy, there was a published book version of it in a fairy tale book. And then, most notably, Charles Perrault added pumpkins, glass slipper, a fairy godmother. He really made it the Cinderella that we know now. And then 200 years later, the Brothers Grimm took it in 1812. And the popularity of that sent it everywhere, around operas, around musicals. Now it's in movies, film, ballets, cartoons, etc. And so essentially this movie has transcended time. It's gone through centuries and centuries to land in Andy Tennant's lap, to which he has gifted me and everyone else in the world. And I am so grateful every single day. Every single day. It's so good. Okay, so yes, I have absolutely nailed in the fact that this plot is very universal. I mean, it's about an abused, mistreated, powerless, oppressed woman, and through her grace, kindness, and perseverance alone, breaks through the shackles chaining her so that she can rise up. That's awesome. That's freaking sick. But there's also a different way that you can look at Cinderella. Like, for example, if you just watch one of the most popular one, Disney's Cinderella, that came out in 1955, you can argue that Cinderella has absolutely no agency. She is incredibly passive to her mistreatment by her stepmother. She doesn't fight back. And only once she's essentially persuaded and aided by her fairy godmother and her little mice friends who help kick down the door and everything. And then through the luck of one powerful man, Mr. Prince, she's freed from her cruel life.
Yeah. She didn't get to actually make any of those decisions for herself.
Yeah.
She was just sweet and beautiful, and he was like, wow, she's sweet and beautiful.
And the famous quote from Swan Lake, what else is there to a woman, or whatever he says to her.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah.
And so that's why, to me, Ever After is my favorite version of the story. Danielle in this movie, played by Drew Barrymore, she saves herself.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does.
Period.
And I remember I just came and I watched this movie out of the blue, and it surprised me, and it brought me so much joy. And throughout the whole film, she fights back against her stepmother. She fights for her friends. She fights for herself. She doesn't just endure her mistreatment because she's ignorant and submissive. Like, Danielle is forced to become a slave to her stepmother after her father dies. And then her meet cute with Prince Henry immediately shows her fighting spirit, because as he's stealing her father's horses to run away from his arranged marriage to a Spanish princess, she, thinking he's some random thief, clocks him in the face with an apple. That's one of the first scenes. That's the first scene we see of Danielle, because she's picking apples, all beautiful. And then she just has this incredible arm and knocks this guy almost directly in the eye. And he falls right on his butt, right off his little prince horse. And it just, I don't know, it just immediately reveals that he's the prince soon after. And then he gives her gold to hush her up. But that's a pretty powerful meet cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a girl beating up a man, essentially.
Yeah. Imagine the meet cute is literally her being like, oh my God, this man is stealing from me.
And he falls off, and it's so funny. And he like whips his cape back over his head, and he's like, and he's like, and then pretty sure later on he's like, yeah, some servant, like, she had a good arm.
Yeah.
And then so he gives her this gold coin to keep her hush hush and give her the horse. And you know what the first thing she does? Her immediate idea is to go buy the freedom of one of her family servants that's been sold. She finds the dress, she disguises herself, she comes up with this plan, she becomes a little noblewoman, and using her mother's name, Countess Nicole de Lancret, she goes into the kingdom and talks her way into the release of this man. And she stands up to the massive intimidating guard and Mr. the Prince. And through her just intelligence and passion alone, she saves this man's life. And the director also writes the credit of Danielle's education belonging to the novel that was gifted to her by her father, Utopia, by Thomas More. And we talked a little bit about this, Callie. It was also given to the prince as well. He read Thomas More. That's something that she quotes initially. And then he goes, "Oh, you read that book? I found it boring, and the plights of the common people, the rustics, boring. I don't want to read that. Like, you like that book?" And he essentially just critiques it for its dullness. And it just shows immediately how they're foils. How although they have the same content, their upbringings make them completely two different characters. And it just makes you think, how in the world could these two people fall in love? They're so different from one another. And something else I was thinking of was also how she's so enchanted by the prince immediately. Because obviously he's the prince.
It's
and
like
he's not
a celebrity.
And he's not too bad looking either. He's pretty cute.
And during that time, if you're a prince, that means you get to bathe. All those other guys weren't bathing.
Yes! And you were like, oh my god, is
so
that
he's like,
vanilla?
You don't smell like horse shit. Shoot.
Shoot. How incredible.
Yeah.
And despite her still being like enchanted by him, she still puts him in his place. She still makes him work for it, critiques him and his privilege. And so already off the bat, she already has more agency than any other princesses, like in the past decade that Cinderella is being released. And Danielle and the prince run into each other a few times. After that, they have a beautiful date at a French monastery where the prince is like, oh my god, I wish you have more conviction in about one thing that I could have in my whole being. And she's like, you are the prince.
You should have convictions.
She's like, you have been given such a life of privilege. And she's like, and then she kind of down talks herself because she's like, I'm not. Stop it. You're crazy. Me? What? And she kind of puts him in his place a little bit. He's like a little whiny baby through the majority of the first part of the film. And he's just like, I don't want the crown. I don't want it. I just want to be a guy. And she's there, and she just like through her wits and smarts, once again, she also saves his life. They run into an ambush, and in her undergarments, because she climbs up a cliff to like go over, and they got lost. And he's like, I can't believe I can't even find my own castle. And so she like takes off her clothes and she climbs up this hill. And he's like, wow, what can't you do? And she goes, fly. And he's like, Kee! And he turns around, boom, ambush. Are you guys nervous? Are you guys scared?
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Boom, ambush. And then he's like, you can take anything you can carry, milady. And she goes, do I have your word? And then she picks him up.
I love it.
Off the ground, and she shoulders him. And she walks home.
And Drew Barrymore actually does this.
She walks a while. Like, we see them girl, and he's just in his face. He sits there and he's like
ragdoll over the thing, like
he's just in shock.
He's like, what's going on? But he doesn't fight it. Which credit to him. He doesn't fight it. And she saves his life once again, just from being smart, just from being freaking clever. And then of course, meanwhile, because it's Cinderella, his father is trying to get him to marry this Spanish princess, and he tells her, because thanks to Leonardo da Vinci, by the way, is in this movie, which is interesting because Da Vinci. He's about like, it's the Renaissance era. The film takes place in the Renaissance era, but it still seems like maybe he's a little too early in this timeline, but alas.
It might be medieval.
Mm-hmm. This movie? I think it's supposed to be Renaissance era. Anywho.
They're very similar.
Very similar. They could be. Most of the places are chateaus.
And even if it's not accurate, like how iconic of them to put Leonardo da Vinci in
in this movie. It's incredible. And just by him alone, to honor him and his different outlook on the world, his father proposes. He's like, all right, I'll be lenient. You don't have to marry the Spanish bride, but you do have to find some other woman of your choosing by this masquerade that we're throwing in his honor. And the Baroness, Danielle's stepmother, is like, oh, okay. So I'm going to have my other daughter, one of the ugly stepsisters, Marguerite. I'm going to have her seduce and wed the prince. No, but essentially ugly stepsister. No, but she's beautiful, but her attitude is ugly.
It's like the ugly stepsisters are like, they're mean.
And this woman's wicked. One of the first lines she says, she goes, I asked for 4 1-minute eggs. Not, no, I lied. She goes, pardon me. She goes, I asked for 1 4-minute eggs, not 4 1-minute eggs. And where in God's sake is the bread? Just like that. Actually, she screams, but I'm not going to scream.
If someone messed up my eggs like that, I'd scream too. I'm just kidding.
I think too, I've said,
make your own damn egg.
I think I've said that as well.
No, literally.
Where in God's sake is my bread?
I make my own eggs because I'm picky about them.
Yeah, but she absolutely could get up off her booty and go make her eggs, but she's not because she's spoiled as heck.
Or just be like, oh, thank you so much for trying.
But she ugly inside. So that's her evil plan going on naturally. Because the evil stepmother, the whole time, she's just trying to get a plan to make sure that her and her daughters succeed at no matter what cost, essentially. That is her agency in the film. But despite Marguerite and the Spanish princess, etc., he's absolutely taken by Danielle. And in the most gorgeous scene ever in these beautiful ruins, he stands in front of her and he tells her that just through her kindness and her knowledge and her character, she has changed him as a man, and that he's ready to be a good king, inspired him to build a university so that he can educate all classes and build toward equality, and that he's in love with her and wants her to be his queen. And I love that because she didn't ask him to change. And she wasn't initially pursuing him at all. It's just the fact that her existence and being around him made him want to be better and made him want to be king. That's the biggest thing, is that Prince Henry's struggle is trying to find his balance in between being Henry himself and being the king. He thinks that he has to sacrifice in order for one to exist. So he refuses to be king. And she's showing him that his, like, what he believes in and things he should believe in, and how important those are and how they can coexist.
Yeah. And that he has the power as the king, has all of the power as the king to like shape society and the way he wants to see it, basically. And
then Danielle, at this point in the film, she spent so much time with the king. Sorry, the king. He's Prince still. Prince Henry. She spent so much time with him that she's kind of gotten a little courage. She is still kind. But she's got a little bit more, she stands up for herself. They ask her to she's like, where's our breakfast? And she's like, you have 2 hands, make it yourself. And she ends up getting whipped for it. And she punches Marguerite in the face for trying to steal her mother's wedding dress and wear that to the masquerade ball. She punches her. She flips over a bed. Dunk. Lands on her ass.
Yep.
And she gets lashings for it. So it just shows how, while she's improving his life, his presence in hers is actually damaging her. Because where she is in the class system, she's a servant. And being with him has made her courageous and speak back against her stepmother. And that's getting her beaten for it. And she has this revelation that she's like, if I continue spending time with this man, it's not going to do me any good in the long run. He's going to go off and he's going to be king, and I'm going to be exactly where I am. I know how the world works. I've read the books. I know enough to know how this ends. And so for her sake, she decides to step back. And so she goes to the ruins, and then he says that to all of her. And it's an incredible performance. Drew Barrymore is like hyperventilating, crying. I remember when I watched this with this, guys, I was like, man, read a room. She is crying in front of him, and it's sad sobs. And he's like, I love you. Oh my God. And she's like hyperventilating, like, how do I stop? And she's like, this is the most overwhelming thing ever. So although it was her intention to be honest with him, she's just like, she's like, I just wanted to tell you that last night was the best day of my life.
Yeah, no, she came to him wanting to tell him.
Yes.
And he completely made it about him and
he,
like shut her down.
And he does this several times in the movie.
Yeah.
She was literally like, I need to tell you this thing. Like,
And he's
don't
like,
say
no,
anything. He's
I
like,
love
no,
you.
please.
I've heard that so many times in different things where it's like, oh, I need to tell you this thing. And they're like, no. And then they find out and they get mad. And you're like, as if I didn't just try.
Exactly. And I think that's a huge part of the film too that he overcomes, is that it's always the people that have nothing to say that are the loudest. You know, like he's having this huge, once again, he's developing his frontal lobe 20 years behind this like 19, 20-year-old woman.
Yeah, what was he, like 31 in that?
There's a 10-year age gap, but honestly, you don't realize it too much. And also makes sense for that period.
That bad at that period, like that's...
The prince would be pursuing younger women to be
like
his wife.
40 years.
Yeah. But he's more involved in his arc and everything that he's learning and what's happening and what's good for his life, that he's honestly not giving her the floor, to be honest, and tell him how she feels. And also, the first time they're both in love. And it's like an incredible love. Like they get along so well together. And so she caves and she's like, you know what? I love him. I want this moment to last just a little bit longer. I'm not going to ruin it. And she doesn't tell him. She just tells him that. But she does, they kiss and she screams. She's like, ah! Like she's in pain. And then she flees. And it's like just heart-wrenching because you can tell what's going on with her. And I'm just literally, like I said, read a room, my boy. She just like yelped out in pain. And he was like, what's wrong? And then she leaves. She's in torment. And then, because, yeah, the biggest, I mean, like, you can't even be mad at her because the original reason she even lied to him in the first place was to free Maurice, that servant. So it's not like she came into it with bad intentions. Okay, but in the meanwhile, while this is, oh my God, she's in torment, her stepsister, Marguerite, she's got her claws in. There's this scene. This actress is amazing. Her performance in this movie is probably, like, honestly, they're all amazing. But she really brings it. There's a point where he's like, have you ever tried chocolate? They keep he says the Spanish. The Spanish keep sending it over in bricks. And he goes to feed her some. And she goes, and she like sticks out her tongue and holds her mouth open for an uncomfortable long amount of time. And Henry's like, okay, weirdo. And he puts it in and she goes, oh, that's divine.
Thank you so much for giving a demonstration on that.
I'm so glad you gave us a reenactment.
Actually, guys, I've got to go.
If you guys
I've got to go.
If you guys need to know Seduction 101, just take some hints from Marguerite. Because she is
it definitely works.
Yeah. It was crazy. She was like, that's so good. Princey Pooh. And he's like, you think? So anywho, I'd be worried about her. She's going crazy. Actually, the whole time she's failing miserably. He does not want her, but he kind of does because he's a man. Anywho, so the Baroness gets word that Danielle is going about pretending to be la Comtesse de Lancrin. Nicole de Lancrin. And the queen's like, hey girl, you ever heard of this woman? And she goes, oh my God, that's Danielle's mother's name. I know what she's up to. And she realizes the secret, tells the queen instead of the honest truth that she's a servant, because I'm sure that it would go against her name. She wants to keep things squeaky queen. And queen. And she tells him instead that, Miss Nicole de Lancret is actually engaged and she's leaving. She's got to go. So Henry shouldn't even try with her. She should focus on Marguerite. And then she goes home, she locks Danielle up.
Which is so crazy about the name thing, because it was literally her mother. So that's literally her bloodline. It's not like she lied. Like, just because she was put into, like, being a servant, that's still her bloodline.
Yeah, like
that
she
was her
still
mom.
is a merchant's daughter. Like, she still comes from wealth.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is that I think that we get to explore so much more in this version of the story. The mother dynamic and why the stepmother is, like, I think, honestly, this is one of the cruelest, most villainous renditions of the stepmother, because you see how human she is, because you get to understand why she's like this. It's hard to see women and mothers in that position.
Yeah.
And she chose to make Danielle a servant rather than her own daughter after the father died. She could have taken her in as her own, but she chose to make her work. She was like, well, your father's dead, so essentially you're an orphan, so you're nobody, get to work. Instead of absorbing her into her family.
Wasn't it at the beginning when he died, he like leaned into Danielle and like told her how much he loved her
That's the tea.
before
That's the tea.
he died, and like his wife was literally right there, and then the wife got nothing.
Yep, and that will leave a scar.
And so that's like she like why she hates Danielle is because like even she knew that the dad would have always chose Danielle over her.
Yep. And I
so
have a
she
little
resents
more. Actually, we can just talk about that now. No. We'll talk about it a little later because I want to talk about more about Miss Houston's amazing acting and how that character in general. Like I could talk about that all day. So put a pin in that, my dear. Okay. So she's locked up. I'm pretty sure she's like the servants hid her dress and the Baroness is like, "Where'd you put the flippin' dress?" And she's like, "Excuse me? I didn't do anything with the dress." And she's like, "I would rather die 1,000 deaths than to see it on that selfish cow." She says some other word. She's like, "That selfish something cow." But girl, I gotta get burned. You're not recovering after that. And she like scream cries it, and then she get locked up. Whoops. But it doesn't matter that she's locked up because insert Mr. Da Vinci and Danielle's best friend, they come to her rescue, which is a little sweet because we have a little subplot in there about him wanting to be a painter, and then he
gets to meet his hero.
He gets the courage. He was like, "I would sooner meet with God than Mr. Da Vinci." But nope, he sucks it up for Danielle, and he goes and he helps her escape. So then she goes to the ball, gorgeous as ever, in this beautiful fairy butterfly angel gown. And Da Vinci, and she goes, she's like, with the prince, she goes, "How would we be together?" She was like, "If a fish loved a bird, where would they live?" And he goes, "I guess I'll have to give you wings." And he does. Mr. Da Vinci gives her wings. I know.
And
so she can fly.
That's poetry.
They're mechanical.
So she can fly.
Aren't they?
No.
No,
they're not?
They're just
No.
like
They're
What am I
just
thinking of. Maybe there's a different.
I don't know, but that sounds freaking sick. Sounds like
Yeah.
There's
my
like a
next
moment where
year's
they
Halloween
like fluttered
costume.
or something. I don't know.
It's because they're made of this very sheer material, and it's just like they're large as well, and then in the wind they're like breeze past.
yeah, they like flutter.
They're kind of like little sails. They're very beautiful. And
One of the best Cinderella dresses in the
it's
iterations I've
so
ever
pretty.
seen.
And she's wearing light makeup because of the period, and it's just like sparkles around her face, and like that's it. And she's glowing. She just looks so soft and beautiful. And she goes to tell the prince the truth, which I thought was so funny because she like pulls up to tell him the truth, and she comes and she gets everyone's attention because she knows she's serving looks, and everyone stops what they're doing to go look at her. And then he walks up and she goes, "Can we have a minute?" Like, girl, go around the back. Go around the back if you wanted a minute.
Yeah, no, she makes a grand entrance, and then she's like, "Okay, but can we talk for a
Actually, real
second?"
quick, can we go over there by the punch bowl? I know you're the prince and that everyone's like staring at us and that you have an announcement to make, but real quick, girl, get your
It's
time
for the
together.
drama.
The drama.
Yeah.
And then like all men in love, he just blabbers away. She can't speak, which I think is also just great for the tension. Once again, we're bringing that human flaw up again. Like that's what's keeping them apart. That's what's causing the conflict, is just that they're just like so enamored and there's so much going on that they're just stopping each other from just taking 2 seconds to explain. And I think that's just so frustrating when people are just being so human. You're like, well, what are you gonna do? And it just creates so much tension. And then the Baroness beats her to her admission and rips off one of her butterfly wings, essentially, which I think once again is a she can't fly. She can't fly up in the sun anymore and be with her mans in the sky. She nails her to the ground and she's like, she's a serpent. He goes, Baroness was like, be honest, you are in the truth. And he goes, fair enough, dangerous ground. And she's like, no, I'm for real. I'm for real. And then Henry and she's like, Henry! And the whole crowd goes, because
he's the prince.
No way did she just call him Henry. Does she know who she is? This servant
My
girl just
liege,
call
at
him Henry.
least.
Okay, so after you tell me to call you Henry, now you're going to revoke that.
Because he got mad.
He said, the king said, a woman of your choosing. But when everyone was like, oh my God, she's a servant, the king was like, is this a joke? And Henry was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. There's no way. And then she's like, Henry, and he's like, don't call me
You
that.
could never.
Don't call me that in front of my friends. He goes, do not address me so informal, madam. And I'm like, excuse me, if my man's talking to me like that, it'd be over.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
He didn't deserve
At least
her.
he called me madam, but like, and then she's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, you're just like them. And I'm like, okay, so that's the problem, Mr. Whiny Boy, is that she lied. She, just like them, you were a good to nothing nobody before I came around. King, not even close. Barely prince. Anywho, Leonardo Vinci hears word that after all of his efforts and his addition of the wings, that he did that to Danielle in front of everyone. He refused her, basically slapped her in the face. She ran away crying. And he's sitting there on his little butt, all alone and pouting, and they have this little spat. And I'm gonna have Callie and Bella perform it for you. So Mr. Da Vinci is Callie, naturally, and Miss Madam Bella is gonna be Prince Henry, the whiny tantrum boy, sitting on the ground with his arms crossed, like the whole world is on fire. And scene.
What have you done?
I've been born to privilege, and with that comes specific obligations.
Horse shit.
You're out of line, old man.
No, you are. No, you are out of line. Do you have any idea what the girl went through to get here tonight?
She lied to me.
She came to tell you the truth, and you fed her to the wolves.
Jumps out.
Prince jumps up to the ground to have a standing tantrum.
What do you know? Sorry, you built flying machines and walk on water, yet you know nothing about life.
I know a life without love is no life at all.
And a love without trust? What of that?
She's your match, Henry.
I am but a servant to my crown. I have made my decision. I will not yield.
Then you don't deserve her.
Then you don't deserve her. He goes, I will not yield. Oh my God, calm down.
You don't
No one,
deserve
oh my
her.
God, literally, oh my God. Oh my God, calm down. Anywho, so Da Vinci puts him in his place. Da Vinci, who, mind you, did everything for him, showed it, helped him even have this deal with the king, and he's just spitting back in his face. And another incredible thing is that he says, what have you done? He goes, I have been born to privilege, and that comes with specific obligations. And that is what Danielle tells them right before their first kiss. And he throws this back in Da Vinci's face because Danielle taught him the beauty of those responsibilities. But then when the going got tough, he used it as an excuse essentially to hide behind. He's hurt that she lied, but I guess this is also one of his first big experiences with pain and love because he's just been prancing around doing nothing. And this is him confronting the fact that he hasn't found the balance between being a prince and being just Henry. And he thinks that one must exist without the other. And with Danielle, he can't see that he can have both. So I think that that's so beautiful that she teaches him that with the privilege comes specific responsibilities, and that's not such a bad thing. And now he's saying it, screaming at Da Vinci right now about how actually it's the worst thing in the whole world. And then Miss Danielle, in the meantime, is crying. It's thundering. The rain falls on the slipper, and it goes like ping, 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 and it's so beautiful. And then she's in the rain, and she just looks like this drowned butterfly. She's holding herself, trying to catch her breath. She looks so delicate, just sopping wet, sitting there holding herself. And it's honestly one of the first times that you see her in this position, because throughout the whole film, she's just a bad bitch. And this is the first time that we see that she's weak. And I feel like I might speed this up a little bit, because this is the whole movie. And you guys have to go see it. And the ending is the best part. But Henry decides to marry the Spanish princess because he's all pouty. He's like, fine, if I have to be with my specific obligations, I'll go marry the Spanish princess. And then the Spanish princess during their wedding wails.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so
As she's walking
funny.
down the aisle,
That's
just
my favorite scene out of the whole movie.
It is the funniest thing. You have to watch this movie
also, like,
just for this scene.
it's ugly crying. Like,
It's like noises you've never heard before. She's like, like it's
Like-
beautiful. This lady, they performed. Andy Tennant, I love you so much. I love that you made your actors make these decisions and do these things in front of a camera and show it to us. I've never heard of, like, that there's someone out there that
Never.
cries like that. I feel like I've gotten in that position where I'm like, I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna die. I'm gonna make those noises, these inhuman noises, and
Yeah.
she gives that to us.
we've all had a really ugly cry.
Bravo, queen. And he's like, oh my God, she's got a real problem. He starts laughing because he's like, that's so relatable, queen. That's
I don't
so
want to get married
relatable.
either.
And he calls it off. And then the Baroness sells Danielle to a pervy estate owner. And he literally has to chain her legs because she's tried running away so many times. So once again, even after everything that's happened, after her rejection in front of literally the whole population of the town, in front of the king, the queen, Henry, everyone, embarrassing, she still found the courage to run away. She's still like, I have a life to live. I'm not just going to submit to what has been forced upon me. And you know what? Henry was like, just a fluke. It happens. But I
It's a
am
crazy
still...
story I'm going to tell my kids one day.
Exactly. But I'm still worth more than this. And I will still continue to fight. And she does. And she fights him and with some swords and she threatens his life. And so he lets her go.
This day
And then
on.
Henry pulls up. And she's like, where have you been? Like, it's over. It's done. You're a little late, actually. She's like, what are you doing here? He's like, I came to save you. And she's like, aw, just me? Just a lonely little servant lady? And I think just for that reason alone, just for that ending, the fact that she saves herself, the fact that she walks out of...
has no expectation of the prince showing up for her, doesn't let herself be a damsel in that moment.
Absolutely. I've honestly never, barely ever seen that. I can't think of one example. I don't see that in a princess movie.
Mm-hmm.
Especially during
Because I feel like you do see like a lot of these
the 90s.
Princesses, they'll have a lot of agency throughout the course of the story. And then they will have that moment where they're trapped and they can't get themselves out. And then they do still need the prince to come and save them. And they have their damsel moment. And she doesn't have a damsel moment.
Mm-hmm. And it shows too that romance isn't the only thing to fight for.
Yeah.
Because for him, literally, he completely collapsed. When Danielle was no longer with him, when he couldn't be with her, he gave up everything. He was like, oh, it's over, the end. I'm just going to marry this Spanish princess. And he absolutely would have gone through with it if that Spanish princess wasn't wailing in front of him, reminding him what he's feeling inside, what he's denying himself. But Danielle, in the meantime, is like, no, I still know what I need. I'm a whole person. And I don't just need a prince to show me that. Period. Point blank. So anyway, so then she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I came to beg your forgiveness. That's right, Princey boy, get on your knees. Get on your knees. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Danielle. And she goes, say it again. And he goes, I'm sorry. And she goes, the part where you said my name. And he goes, Danielle. And she's like,
Danielle.
because she's never gotten to be herself. She's never been
Yeah.
accepted by the prince. And there he is standing there in front of her.
Oh, you said my name.
Anyway, so they got married, naturally. And then the royal court strips the Baroness and Marguerite of their titles, banish them to be they were going to banish them. But then they're like, can everyone speak for them? And Danielle goes, she gives up once again, another bar. She goes, I want you to know that I will forget you after this moment. I will never think of you again. But you, I'm certain that you will think of me every single day for the rest of your life. So once again, Madame Cinderella, who was supposed to sit there and be kind and gracious and have this limitless generosity, she has a boundary. And I think that's beautiful as well. That's who I want my Cinderella to be the one that looks the stepmother in the eyes and goes, no, you reached your limit, my dear. And they go, and she's standing there and she goes, I only ask, Your Highnesses, that you treat her with the same,
Like kindness she showed me or something along those lines. Yeah.
essentially. She goes, I just ask that you treat her with the same courtesies that they have shown me. So she's banished, and they're being servants. And literally, she could have chosen to kill the stepmother. I think that would have been a flip of character. But she had every reason to. She literally sold her as a pervert, you know?
There's a version where she does have the stepmother killed.
Ooh.
It's a very niche version.
Mm-hmm. But
one of the more dark ones.
But that is not Miss Danielle here. So, sorry, but you should have been better, because you're still going to be a servant. Like, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to forgive you, and you're not going to live happily ever after like I am. I also love that line as well. That's another example of the clever dialogue, is that she goes, I just wish that they would be treated with the same courtesy as me, which also just shows that as she becomes queen, and her reign will reflect that same equality that she still believes in throughout the film. Like, that's like her biggest goal. And yeah, anywho, there's a movie. Oh my God, you should go watch it for sure. 100%. Now I'm just gonna give you guys a few details. So we were talking about the stepmother.
Yeah.
I think I just want to make another callback to her character, because Angelica Houston goes crazy in this. Her performance is exceptional. Like I said, one of the best stepmother renditions I've ever seen.
She's not over the top evil, which I feel like a lot of stepmoms in these are like over the top.
She's just cruel. She's just a cruel person. And at the beginning of the movie, we're talking about how the father dies. And she cries so deeply in this scene. We all have this thought where it's like, did she even love this man? But there's still such a human aspect to where she's watching her husband died, who are supposed to like be her ticket out. Because that's her whole goal is to try to climb up, to get out of this difficult life. But she cries so deeply as the father's dying, and then he looks at Danielle instead of the Baroness that he just married. He's looking at her, he turns to Danielle and he goes, I love you. And those are his last words. And she's sitting there and she's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Like, to be fair, I would too. Like, if it between my daughter versus like the person that I just married, especially like, she never really loved him. She loved what he could do for her. And that's why she was crying. You know?
And I've always supported the stepmother. I've been like, no. She loved him. She must have. You can't react like that. But her entire being revolves around money. She talks later on in the movie where Danielle and them have this tender moment where she's brushing her hair. The Baroness explains that her mother told her to wash her face 20 times a day because she was never convinced it was clean enough. She said that cleanliness is above everything. And she says that when Danielle speaks about how she misses her mother, she goes, you should never feel bad for yourself. She says, my mother taught me that. So you just know immediately from her character that because her mother taught all of her those things, because her mother was cruel to her as well, told her that the only important thing in life is to succeed at no matter the cost. And you can see that as the father dies, although it's so sad for her to lose the man that you love, she gets out of the carriage in the first scene in the movie and she looks around at the home that they live in, at the estate, and she is like, oh my God. And he died. She has 2 kids already. She marries this man. He leaves her with this house that absolutely needs so much work to be put into. She thinks and wants to deserve better. And then he dies, gets her another daughter that she's forced to take care of. To be honest, though, I feel bad for this woman.
Yeah.
And she can't improve her station without a man.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of sympathy there. Like, it's really hard to move up in society, especially at that time, if you weren't a man.
A lot of times, like what I was saying about how she didn't really love him, that also wasn't very common in that time. Like, you didn't really love someone. It was about what they could do for you.
And then you can also see that, like, the way that her mother treated her made her an awful mother. And then you can see how it's displayed in Marguerite. You can see how that awful cycle is just continuing. And Marguerite's a vile person. Even one of the last scenes of the movie is Marguerite turning against her own mother and being like, you're the problem. You're the reason we're here. I didn't even do anything, which is exactly the reasoning that the Baroness would use. She, that she's never wrong, that her intentions were correct. And yeah, Marguerite's going to continue to be an awful person. And so I think, too, that's great that one of the ugly stepsisters, Jacqueline, she shows that it can be broken. That cycle can be broken. And I think one of the cruelest parts of the film as well is like right before she sells Danielle, Danielle's like crying in front of her, and we all think like, oh my God, it's because the prince was taken away from her. And she confronts her stepmother and she goes, actually, it's awful because you denied me the one thing that I've ever wanted. And the stepmother replies, what? She's like, what are you talking about? Oh, she's going to complain about becoming queen. Because she's a servant, yada, yada, yada. And she goes, the love of a mother. She's like, you were the only mother I have ever known. And you denied that to me. It was absolutely a choice she could have made, and she chose not to. And the stepmother goes, how could someone love a pebble in their shoe?
Mm-hmm. Just nailing that in the coffin. Of like,
nail in the coffin.
Such a villain.
Yeah.
And then I already talked about Miss Margaret, Megan Dodd. Megan Dodd, who played an incredible Marguerite. In the film, she also wears this pink dress, and it's an exact copy of the dress that Jeanne d'Arc, I think, I don't know, it's French, I pardon, is wearing. Actually, no, wait. No. Yeah, she was the Queen of Naples. Was she Spanish? Oh, I don't know.
Naples is in Italy.
Yes, I know that, but she, she could have been a queen for a different reason. Anywho, I'm so sorry, I don't know my history very well. Anyway, it's a portrait that was painted by Raffaello Sanzio. So she was the Queen of Naples for a short little bit, and that was a gift intended for King Francis I, who in the movie, the king in this film is supposed to be King Francis I. So they took that portrait, the real painting, and they took the dress that she was making, and the art department, the wardrobe department, made that dress for Marguerite to wear in the film. And it's beautiful. And so you can just tell how much care they put into it. The film is supposed to take place around the late 15, early 16th century. It's all Italian fashion. The wardrobe's incredible. They wear these masquerade outfits in the ball. And Marguerite's a peacock to represent her sinful pride. Essentially, I'm pretty sure. And Jacqueline, her sister, is wearing a horse, which I think is like supposed to represent resilience. And then, Danielle's an angel, a butterfly to represent like rebirth and flying and being free. And the stepmother is wearing these like horns, which, come on now.
Come on now. We know what that's about.
We know what that represents.
And it's gorgeous. And I love how Da Vinci also puts those wings on her, like I said. And it's kind of just like, that's his little fairy godmother moment.
Yeah, Da Vinci's the fairy godmother.
He doesn't have a pumpkin. He doesn't have
the mice.
Little mice. He doesn't have a wand. Servants. He just goes, here's some wings. Here's some wings. And the majority of the film was like all over these French chateaus. It's gorgeous. I don't know how they got a castle for the movie. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't that hard for them, but it's just incredible to me that they filmed in real castles. Yeah. You can go visit them. We were thinking we should take a Girlies tour.
Yeah,
to go see these castles all around France.
We finally go to France and tour the chateaus.
Anyone wants to meet us there.
Actually, don't stalk us. I don't want that.
And no, there's well, if we want to be friends.
Yeah, if you guys want to be not weird.
And we can be friends before, and then we can go together.
Yes, I like that idea.
Yeah. That's like
Make sure mom's okay with that.
That's like a thing that people do. They
yeah, meetups.
Yeah, they're like, we should all go to Italy.
Come on,
we meet a bunch of people in Italy.
We need more girlies.
Yeah.
We need more girlies.
Yeah. More girlies. We're recruiting the army, remember? That's I said that in the last season.
Recruiting the army.
We're recruiting a girly army.
To continue with the paintings as well, one of the huge inspirations for the film was Da Vinci's Head of a Woman, the unfinished painting of his that looks very much like Drew Barrymore. And they recreated it in the film
very much,
and they applied it into the story.
Exactly like her.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. It's incredible.
It totally looks like that was painted of her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's like tied into the movie, which I think is really cool. Like a lot of history in there. Andrew Dunn was the cinematographer. He did like Perks of Being a Wallflower, Crazy Stupid Love. Andy Tennant does mostly romantic comedies. He did like Fool's Gold, which has Matthew McConaughey in it, and Sweet Home Alabama. So this is like this is only his fourth feature too. My God, dude, you nailed it.
Alabama.
Nailed that. And then George Fenton does like an incredible orchestral score. Like the movie is so dreamy and there's so many like birds chirping and it's beautiful. It's perfect. Anyhow, so I just wanted to tell you guys all about this movie because during film school, I just remember everyone being like, tell us about your favorite movie. And I would be so hesitant to raise my hand and stand up in front of all these film boys and all of these pretentious artists that don't think that romance movies, or essentially just, I don't know,
That like girl movies aren't real cinema.
yeah, that they're not something to respect or taken seriously. And I felt naive, or that I should be ashamed or something. And so much of it is so much of these princess movies is inherently feminine, and usually, like we talked earlier about, princesses are supposed to be damsels that want to be saved.
Yeah.
But Ever After rewrites that narrative, and I don't know, that just like helps me accept that princesses can be freaking sick. And you know what? So what if I want to wear a pretty princess gown every so often?
Yeah.
Still be cool.
You can be cool and wear a pretty princess gown.
So what? And so what if I want an infatuating, handsome, kind, attentive prince to be in love with me and to have a beautiful romantic relationship? And although I do not need his help, wants to help me. So what if I want that? Okay, I'll admit it. Okay.
That's
like-
cool.
There's a quote I saw online that was like, a girl should always know how to change her own tires, but a girl should never have to change her own tire.
Yeah.
I know how to do a lot of stuff on my car, and I don't do it.
Yeah, because so much of love is just wanting to be loved. It doesn't mean that we have to be loved.
Yes.
We need to be loved, but we want to be loved. And the prince honestly becomes like a beacon for her to like pull from and become more empowered, rather than just being a symbol of power that works in her individual favor.
Yeah. Because she's able to use his power in order to like help other people that were in her situation. Because they talked about bringing up the lower classes and improving their like way of life.
And it's great that he's in her life too, because now she can, and it's great to be a princess too, because it means participating in bettering the community and repairing the, I don't know, political injustices. And that's exactly what Miss Danielle is going to go do.
Yeah, because princesses are not just pretty, they're also political.
Mm-hmm.
And they know their politics.
Period. And that's on God. And that's basically everything that I love about Ever After. So no big deal. I just told you guys the entire film, and that's everything that I love. I love all the other adaptations too, just not as much.
Ella Enchanted is a close second for
I
me.
love you, Camila Cabello.
No, I don't.
I've never seen that movie.
I haven't either.
I have no desire to see it. Sorry, Camila Cabello.
It looked crazy. It
There's
looked
one
crazy.
With, what is it? The princess.
One to shout out, A Cinderella Story with Miss Hilary Duff. Another Cinderella Story with Miss Selena Gomez. Cinderella Story Once Upon a Time with Lucy Hale. And then Rags. Have you guys seen Rags with Keke Palmer and Max Schneider?
No.
Guys, also go watch Rags.
Okay.
But watch Ever After first.
Homework.
Did I name one of the ones you were thinking of, Bella?
Yeah.
Yeah?
There's
Which
also
one?
one with...
Oh, Jennifer.
The one with Selena Gomez.
Oh.
There's one with the girl from Descendants as well.
I don't know. I'm blanking.
Dove Cameron?
No, the black-haired one.
Oh.
I'm blanking
Sophia
on her
something.
name.
Sophia Carson.
This is literally going to
She
drive
has a Cinderella one too.
that. I guess I'd have a heart attack. What is that?
Demi Lovato.
Demi Lovato.
Whoa.
Isn't that? Is she the same one?
No,
She's
Princess Protection.
Princess Protection Program.
Princess Protection Program.
But Ever After is the best princess movie, and you can fight me on it if you'd like, but I just gave you about an hour analysis of why you will never win.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite movies, and I'm proud. Oh, my other one? So glad you asked. Pride and Prejudice. We'll do analysis on that the
we
other
will
day.
definitely talk about Pride and Prejudice. Maybe I'll read the book and we can like talk about
The book.
all the themes.
Yeah.
And like the history of the time period.
And where in God's sake is my bread?
We watched Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, but I
my
wanted to
gosh.
talk about that one and they did not.
That's one of Bella's favorite movies, thanks to me.
So Bella can talk about that one another day.
It's so funny because I didn't actually like it, but I.
But we should still talk about it.
Yeah.
Well,
it was funny.
Because it's a cultural icon.
Personally, I have got to go.
We have got to go.
I have got to go.
I've gotta go.
We have got to go.
Thank you guys for sticking with me and hearing me yap for literally an hour. Sorry this one was a little long, but the movie is 2 hours, so I give you
You saved an hour.
the short version. Don't go save an hour. Go watch it as well. Now you have 3 hours of Ever After.
This goes alongside
Well,
with the
but
movie.
what happens is when you watch it twice. So now maybe you only have to watch it once for the next couple days, and then you can do what you want.
Yay. Well, anyway, thanks for letting me out. I just need to get that off my chest. I've been really worried about that for a while. So thanks, guys. We'll catch you in the next episode. Go watch
Yep.
Ever After. Oh my God. Also, they're British.
That's because Hollywood, whenever anything is set in
European,
Europe,
yeah.
it's British.
They're British, and
Yeah.
her accent is so funny. She's like,
Wait.
how could a fish love a bird? Not even.
That was the one thing that when we watched it last time that I noticed. I was like, they're
Why
supposed to
are
be
they-
French.
they're French.
They literally have British accents.
But literally every time Hollywood puts
The
us a
Spaniards
movie
are
they just
Spanish?
do.
in Europe,
They're British.
The Spaniards were speaking
They're
Spanish.
like, because no one can understand if we are French.
also a good French accent's really
Sorry, but
hard
a
to
French
do.
prince.
And then I was
Sign
like,
me up.
that one time that Robert Pattinson
Get
was in
him.
The King, and he was doing the French accent. My favorite
Ever After
accent
Two.
ever.
Let's get it up. Robert. Where you at?
Yeah.
Drew
Robert
Barrymore,
Pattinson
come
in The
back.
King.
You can do it. I think she's so good for this role too. She's so pure. She's so delicate. She's so innocent. She's so smart,
such
soft.
a natural, soft beauty too.
Yes,
Like the way
and she's
that
wearing like no makeup. She looks exactly like a painting, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what they got. Anywho,
Yeah, they got
Okay.
the perfect person for it.
Thank you guys.
But we've got to go.
We've
got to go.
Like now we have to go.
I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.